Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. Let me get ourselves sorted here so I can see who jumps on and who asks any questions. So, as I promised this morning, and I promised a couple of weeks ago, we have Laura Mcegan here with us, and Laura is the founder of Divine Light Yoga. She's the lead teacher and she's also a teacher trainer. So when it comes to wanting different tools and strategies for our children, for your children, then she really is such a great resource and a great woman to turn to, because I'll let her share her journey on where she started out and where she came from, but she has years and years and years of experience with children in many different fields. So you're going to have an opportunity to be able to ask some questions as well, but let's just start our chat. Hey, Laura.
Hello, thanks for having me, Jess.
Thank you, thank you. So everybody, let's kick off. Let's share, where have you come from, Laura, and what has you doing this work? So teaching yoga and meditation to children. Why?
Well, I used to be a school teacher, so I've worked with children for 22 years, started very young, and worked in preschools and nurseries in the UK, and then in international schools. And alongside my work in education, I was also practicing yoga myself. So I started practicing when I was a teen. Didn't really get into it, but I just went actually with my granny. And so it was kind of two separate parts of my life. It was yoga and meditation, and then the education side, my work. And one day I was benefiting so much from yoga and meditation. I decided to take it into my classroom, see how these little ones would respond to it. Just started with some relaxation, to be honest, rather than the movement. And I noticed it actually worked. And I thought, okay, so response, that's something that works. Let's keep this going. And from then on, I kind of went from just putting little bits and pieces into my regular classroom, then into training to be a children's yoga teacher. I then left the education system to then go and work with different schools, different yoga studios. At the time, I was working in Hong Kong. So I was working with a lot of schools, a lot of children and families that, maybe didn't have a lot of time in nature, didn't have a lot of time to just breathe and be, very busy bodies, busy minds. And then, I decided to open up Divine Light Yoga to train other teachers, other professionals like yourself, Jess, so that I could really try and make a bigger impact. So I just thought, rather than just teaching, maybe 100 children per year, teaching parents these skills, teachers, other professionals, and then eventually that's kind of scattered around the world.
Yeah, it sure has. So I trained with you, Laura, when I first started my first business, so Kids Yoga Therapy, and that was probably about 4 years ago now, 4.5 years ago, somewhere in that time frame. And, for me, it was very much so that I've come out of working in trauma as a social worker, and I realized that the body-mind connection was really lacking in that field of work. So I guess for the parents watching, what child does this benefit? So who does it benefit? What types of behaviors do you commonly see that, either parents will chat to you, or maybe workers like myself say, well, this is the type of child that I want to impact? Who is it helping?
I mean, honestly, I truly believe it does help all children, all teenagers, all people can benefit from yoga, meditation, mindfulness. If you're not familiar with yoga or meditation, often you'll have a preconceived idea that it's a certain type of movement where they have to stay still in poses, or they have to sit down and meditate. And definitely my approach to children and teen yoga is that there is a lot of movement. So we tailor it towards the individual child and what they need. But with regards to kind of how it can help them and the type of children that it does predominantly benefit, I would say children who are experiencing anxiety or stress, really those children that are struggling to regulate their body, regulate their nervous system, whether that is because of overstimulation, overexcitement, anxiety, maybe particular disorders or special needs, additional needs, such as ADHD, autism, where, you know, their nervous system is really having a bit of a difficult time kind of switching over into that rest and digest phase. But I do truly believe that it is beneficial for all people and can be tailored towards all people, all bodies.
It really can. It really can. I know that, you know, for me, when it first made the biggest dramatic impact on my life was when I was having anxiety and panic attacks. And this was when the coins started to drop for me. It's just how impactful this can be for children that are experiencing the same thing, or even more so when we've got trauma involved, or when we've got, you know, these environments that might not be supporting the child's nervous systems as well in this way. So I guess where do we start, do you think? So is it important to understand why and how it works? So, you know, the mind-body connection, maybe you could speak to, say, just a couple of main points around that from your perspective on how the body interacts with the mind when we are doing yoga or when we are meditating.
Yeah, I mean, the mind-body connection, it really is about, I think that one of the most empowering things, to be honest, about yoga is that you are learning to control your mind. Often we feel that our mind is just something that wanders off by itself, and all these thoughts can come in and they're out of control, you know, and we speak a lot about children being out of control. And I think it's giving the children the power and the understanding that they can control their own thoughts, they can manage their own thoughts, and therefore they can manage their own bodies, their own behaviors. You know, they can make their own choices of how they're going to behave and how their body is going to move. And it's all obviously all very much connected. On an anatomical perspective, it is all working with the nervous system. So literally the brain, the whole nervous system. And teaching children really, really basic tools does not have to be overcomplicated at all. Basic tools from breathing or specific movements and poses that switch their nervous system over from being, you know, in the sympathetic nervous system, which is all awake, alert, you know, basically fight or flight, which many children are in that state, you know, a lot of the time. So switching from that very quickly to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest, which is, you know, literally restoration, healing, when the body is self-regulation, homeostasis, basically. And so that's how we're working anatomically through yoga. Yeah.
And so how do you get started? You know, so when you've got some little ones, or when, let's just say for a parent, from a parent's perspective, they'd really love to start incorporating something in their home around mindfulness or around a child connecting with their body and being able to calm or just, you know, self-soothe in some sort of way. Where do we get started, do you think? Is it the yoga? Is it the meditation? What do you think is the best first step?
Personally, I think it's the breathing techniques, the breathing practices. They're just easy, they're very quick to implement, they're very rapid, you know, specific breathing techniques. You only need to do 3 cycles of breath, which can take 20 seconds, and it can have such a huge impact, an immediate impact on the nervous system, and therefore the mind and the overall body. Because I think it's not realistic. You know, I always compare it, you know, meditation to like when you're teaching a child to read. It's not realistic to say to a child, okay, you've never seen any letters before. You've never seen the alphabet, never seen any written text, but here's Harry Potter. Go ahead and read. It's just, it's very confusing, overwhelming. They're going to throw the book and run around. It's the same with meditation. If you say, let's sit down, do 5 minutes of silence, absolutely not going to work. It's got to be step by step. Teach them the skills of concentration, of being quiet, of feeling their bodies slowing down. So little bit by bit with meditation. Even with teenagers, it's the same thing. You've got to teach them those basic skills first before they can then start to go into a meditation. And I think the breathing techniques are a really great way to teach focus, letting the body slow down, finding that kind of place of stillness, and just really coming back to the physical body as well.
Yeah. And is there different types of breathing techniques depending on what the child is going through? Or will one breathing technique be able to support all children in that home or that family?
There are different breathing techniques. There's many. As I mentioned before, the two parts of the nervous system that we're working with is kind of dealing with the fight or flight, which is when children are either overwhelmed, overexcited, overstimulated, anxious, stressed. Or for some teenagers, they might need a little bit of a boost if they're feeling very fatigued, lethargic, hormonal, nervous, but in the way that they need to get focused for exams or competitions. Then there's kind of like those two different types of breathing techniques. I think predominantly parents are really looking for those breathing techniques that are going to help the children to, be calm, soothed, self-regulate, as I mentioned, just kind of homeostasis. So the one all-rounder that I think works for pretty much everything, it's great for bedtime, it's great for, if they need to sit down and revise for exams or get ready for competitions. It's great for anxiety, doesn't need a lot of explanation at all, and everybody can do it. I would say pretty much everybody can do it, is Hummingbird breath. I don't know if you remember this, Jess, or if you've used it with your little ones. And it's very simple. It is literally, they can just close their eyes, cover their ears, and they just make a humming sound. So it's just a breath in through the nose and then for as long as possible. And again, from an anatomical point of view, it is extending the exhale, which is automatically switching over to that rest and digest. It is, it's the vibration that is coming, through the back of the throat, from the belly. It is automatically soothing. It is very grounding, gets them back in their body. Their mind is only focused on that sound. It's actually very difficult to make that sound and at the same time be thinking about, oh, but I'm so stressed, or oh, but I've got to do this, or oh, but TikTok, and
TikTok, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I know that was a really popular one I used, and even I enjoy doing it with the kids. Like, it is so soothing. It is just the vibration and the noise, and it's quite magical. So if you're watching this, actually, there's a few of you here. Make sure you pop in questions in the comments as we're going along. Let me know what child you'd love to do this with, what they're experiencing, and we'll see what suggestions we can come up with. But yeah, so that's a really good all-rounder. That's awesome. So parents can start trying that. Is there a particular time of day that's going to work better for children, that we can just know this is when it's better? Does it really matter?
I mean, with the breathing techniques, especially something like that, they can use it at any time of the day. I think it's a great one to do in bed or right before bed. And then they can also use it if they wake up in the middle of the night and they're feeling, fearful or anxious or struggling to get to sleep. You only need 3 rounds of the Hummingbird breath. You could start your day with it. They can be walking around, from the bedroom to the bathroom, and that's how they can start their day, get into a habit of doing humming bee. They can, curl up into a ball, give themselves, a hug, and do it to, make them feel a little bit safer and in their own little world and grounded. And, if they need it at school, for the younger children, it's a lot easier. For the older ones, it might be a case of, taking themselves to the bathroom or a spare classroom and doing it. But really just like they can be in any place. They can be in any physical body shape, standing, seated, lying down. And just any time that they need it. And it only needs to be, 3 rounds of that. And it can be very, very beneficial. And I would just say to any parents that are maybe a bit apprehensive of, how can it be that easy? Just try it. It's going to take you 20 seconds. Just give it a go. You can say to your, tweens and teens, this is going to seem a bit weird, but let's just try it out, because this weird lady in Jess's Facebook group said, let's try it. So
yeah, this weird lady from the UK, she was talking to Jess. Okay, cool. So I think we can overthink how it needs to look sometimes when it's something new. So it's good to know it doesn't need to look a certain way. It doesn't need to look like the yoga and meditation videos that you might be watching on YouTube. It doesn't need to look perfect. This is literally about how we can fit it into your everyday world and have it not seem like an additional task that needs to be done, because it's not that. It's going to serve you and your kids greatly. So what, I think parents really love receiving the practical tips, or if there's anything else they can start implementing. So are there any other ones that maybe it worked really well in the classroom, Laura, or maybe it's other ones when you've worked with groups of kids that it just works really well to calm them, but also engage them too? Sometimes the engagement can be a bit tricky. So any other suggestions that you have for the parents watching?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about the practical activities, and as you say, not trying to make it an additional thing that you need to fit into your day, because it's just not realistic. I know that, as a busy teacher working with busy parents, it needs to be practical, it needs to be simple, not much explanation needed, and just very much do it with the children, do it with your children, alongside them, and then you can have a discussion afterwards about it. When they're in the state of stress or borderline meltdown, that is not the time to start having a discussion with them about this type of breathing technique or this mindfulness activity. So it's kind of teaching them, ideally, let's do it in the car on the way to school, or let's do this before bed. So they start to get into a routine of using it, and you can have a discussion about, how does it make you feel when you do that? Does it help you do you think it would help you when you're angry? Do you think it would help you when you feel a little bit stressed at school, or when you're missing mummy or you're missing daddy? So then the children themselves can start to recognize when to use these breathing techniques or mindfulness activities. But I would say another one that I think works particularly for the younger children is lion's breath. It's great for really, if they're feeling frustrated, it definitely reduces any kind of meltdowns, tantrums, frustrations, overstimulation. Again, it is a little bit of a weird one. But I just say to the children, yoga's weird, and that's okay. And then they go with it. So it's another breath in through the nose, and then they stick their tongue out and open their mouth wide, and it's a really forceful exhale. So just had my tea, but it's like, so as you can imagine, 5-year-olds, 7-year-old boys, 8-year-old boys, they love it because they get to stick their tongue out. Again, only takes 2 or 3 cycles of breath. And if you can, and it's great for you as a parent as well, if you're both getting very stressed, agitated, frustrated, and you know, we've all been there, even as a teacher, you know, trying to keep your patients all the time is just impossible. And when you've got the children, it's very stressy. Doing it together, and it's just inhale, and it literally, you know, on an anatomical level, you're making that forceful exhale, so you're really getting rid of all that, the air out of your lungs. So then instantly, it's a nice deep breath in automatically. You don't even have to think about the inhale. From a kind of emotional, physical point of view, it really does feel like you're pushing all of your anger and frustration out. So when you do take that deep breath, it feels like you've cleared your head, and it feels like a relief. It feels like a big sigh, but kind of like him. So simple, again, fun and engaging for most kids to do. Teens, less likely to do it.
Yeah. Maybe what could be one for teens, do you think?
I think with teens, they still need that kind of release, but I would say more of a cleansing breath. So it could just be an inhale through the nose, and then like a deep sigh through the mouth. And they can, it's a lot easier to do. It doesn't involve sticking out your tongue. It's less embarrassing. But again, it could just be 3 of those breaths, inhale, or even with the mouth closed, still kind of like a forceful exhale. I think we all kind of do that naturally. If you notice, when you feel quite angry, your body naturally tries to soothe itself with those kind of sighs, or those kind of, but trying to make it more of a longer exhale to soothe the nervous system, and more of a controlled breath. Because when we're controlling the breath, not only are we controlling the body, but we're also controlling our emotions and thoughts. And by control, I don't mean restricting, I mean managing, maybe is perhaps a better word for it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so we've got a few breaths there. Perfect. So definitely ones that everybody can try. And, if we were to start maybe including some of the movement, so I know that, the movement aspect is so valuable. I've had just incredible results between using both, the power of yoga and breath work, and having the child feel really confident and successful in their bodies and having more control over their bodies. And when I say control, it's like yours, it's more of that empowered sense over the body. So how would we start doing that? Really simple. What would be the starting point for a busy family to start trying a minute or 2 a day? What could we do?
I would say pose-wise, child's pose, because you can do it anywhere. They can do it in their bed. If you've got teens at home, they can do it in their bed before they wake up or before they go to bed. Any age can do it. I do this with my 2-year-old niece. She loves it. She just gets on the floor, does a hummingbird breath in child's pose. So if you're not familiar with that, I can do a quick demonstration. You'll have to mind my socks that don't match anything that I'm wearing. So it's just literally this position or this.
Yeah. So comfortable.
Very comfortable, very grounding. As I said, any age can do it. You can pretty much do it anywhere. I mean, honestly, if needs be, get on the kitchen floor. If your child, you can see, it's escalating in one way or another, just get down on the ground. Little ones will come up with their own name for it. It's been ladybug pose, dead bug pose, rock pose. And it's something that they can always come back to, so you can even just say to them, do you need shall we have a moment in our ladybug pose? And they know that that's a safe grounding kind of space, and it shuts everything off, because they're not looking at anything, and it is just naturally soothing. It's called child's pose for a reason. It's by nature, it's a position that they go into.
Yeah, perfect.
And then, oh, sorry, Jess.
There you go.
I was just going to say, one for children or teens who are experiencing either stress, overwhelm, anxiety, kind of nervous energy, any kind of warrior pose. I call it Superman pose, where they just stand with their feet wide apart and either hands on their hips or hands up, up in the air, out. So making the body as big as possible. Jess, I know you know this kind of position. It's just taking up the space. It is just saying to the body, I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm empowered, I'm brave. And that's where the mind-body connection really comes in.
Yeah, I really love that point. I love that point where it's our body taking up more space, because usually what we see, especially, children coming into early teens and teens, we've really got this, hunched over, and it's a tricky time of our life. Teens, we're very worried about what people think of us. We're hormonal, we're trying to belong, we don't know who we are. So we tend to, just be this little shell, and we hunch over, and a lot of us are not very confident. So yes, like opening ourselves up and being in those strong poses is really, really important. And the same for younger kids too. It's worked so well for the kids that I work with. Yeah, I love that. That's great.
And they can do it, just for 10 seconds before they leave the house. Let's all do our Superman pose. So it's really easy to fit into your day somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we've got some go-tos. Is there, as we finish up, Laura, is there anything that we haven't covered that you feel like is important, or is there anything, we'll go into how they could find you, and I know you've got some really great resources too, which we'll point people towards to make it even more simple for everyone. But is there anything that we haven't covered that you think would be beneficial? And there might not be, but just thought I'd ask.
Obviously I have so much that I would love to share with your community, but I think honestly, I think with yoga and meditation, a lot of people feel, especially parents, who don't practice yoga, feel that, well, I can't do it. I'm not a yoga teacher. I don't even know what yoga is. I've never done it. And it's really not about that. It's just one quick breathing technique or one body shape. And that can make a huge impact to your child's day, to your whole family's day. So if you just take one thing, just one of the techniques, one of the body shapes, and just try to implement it, even just for anywhere, it can be in the car, right? On your way to school in the morning, just do it all together for 7 days. And then just ask your children, how does it feel when we do that? Like, have you noticed a difference? And you yourself notice a difference as well. Like, observe how it feels for you. And if all you do is one hummingbird breath on your way to school, you just have no idea how much of an impact that can have on the rest of the day. So you've got to try it yourself, get the feedback from your own children of how it makes a difference to them and their day. And then, it does not have to be a big thing at all.
Yeah, that's perfect advice. And Laura, with all of the online resources that you have and everything, where can people find this?
So I have lots and lots of workshops, quick free videos, so you can figure out what's best for your child. You don't have to watch all of them. So I've got my YouTube channel. I'm trying to think what is the easiest way to find me. Or my website, which is a bit of a mouthful, I'm going to be honest. I did not think this through when I first set it up, 8 years ago. But it's divine-light-yoga.com. And all my free resources. I literally have hundreds of videos and workshops there for all different age groups. And
Amazing. So I might wait, if you send me through the link to your YouTube and web, just any other links, I'll pop it in the comments here so it's nice and easy for everybody to access. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, thank you for joining, and thank you for just keeping it really simple. It's great for our busy parents in here. Just one quick thing to start experimenting with and seeing if the whole family likes it or benefits. So that's perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I would love to know if anybody does use it and it finds it beneficial. If you just, send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram, because for me, it does make a big difference, because this is why I do this work. And hearing from people who are actually using it, it just, it helps me, keeps me motivated to keep going, keep sharing.
Yeah, especially when you're online at the moment, trying to teach and impart everything. It's nice to hear that feedback from the families. I understand that. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, Laura. Thank you. And if anybody has questions after they've watched this, maybe it's the recording that you've watched, pop them in the comments. And of course, I will make sure that Laura gets to see them and that she'll answer it, and we'll pop the resources in there too. So thank you, everyone. Good night, and connect with you all soon. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.